Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. Thank you for that kind introduction. You know, introducing a speaker, it's a tough job. It's her job to let everyone know, without mentioning it explicitly, that the most entertaining part of the hour is now over. So, talking about keynote speeches, right? A good keynote speech is one which has a good beginning, a memorable end, and most importantly, there is nothing much happening in between. Okay, so please be rest. Sorry? Sorry about that. Yeah. So, before I start this keynote, I would like to congratulate the folks at IIBA, especially Ashish, for putting together this huge show. A huge round of applause to them. And Ashish, it gets better and better every year. So, this is my second keynote address at this event. Last year I spoke about frictionless customer experience and how ever-changing customer expectations has led to a change in customer service paradigm in this rapidly changing world of technology. This year's my talk is sort of a continuation of what I spoke last year. I'm going to be speaking about digital mastery and what it means for organizations in this world, in this ever-changing world, to be digital masters. The Digital Transformation Research Institute, as Anant mentioned, has recently released a study on this particular subject, on digital mastery. Very comprehensive, and what I would like to do is in the next 45 minutes or so, try to compress the output as much as possible. I would be a little fast-paced, but the idea is to cover the ground holistically on the subject. So when we did this study, we at CAPGEMINI, we firmly believe that we are at an inflection point of how business and digital technology work together. There are a lot of changes that are happening on the business side. You hear the terms like globalization, localization, glocalization for that matter. And behind all this, there is one significant driving force, technology. Doesn't matter whether you are a strategist, a supply chain guy, a banker, or a startup entrepreneur, or for that matter, even government. You can't dissociate the two, the business and digital technologies or technologies working together. Now, so let's look at these two things. What are the things that are happening in terms of, there is one part is the digital part, there's the second part is the business disruptions or business changes that are happening. So let's first understand what is digital. Okay, very simple understanding of what is digital. Conversational commerce is huge. So these are all the various terms that you hear when you talk about digital, right? Do you agree to this statement that digital has transformed the world, right? We are already talking about it in past tense now. Now, there are a lot of new technologies that are coming in, right? For example, let's say there is blockchain, there is AI, there is robotics, and a whole lot of new things. It's no more in the realm of the startup and the geek world, and it has actually become mainstream, right? And it has a huge impact on how organizations conduct business, how you as business analysts gain new skills in working in these technologies. So digital has transformed the world that we are currently living in. Now let's talk about some of the business challenges that organizations are facing, because maybe primarily because of how digital has transformed the world, and also because of other things that are happening on the business world. One key change that is happening on the business side is that the traditional sector boundaries, as we know, no longer exist, right? Maybe a decade ago, you will see that, let's take an example from a retail world. A brick and mortar firm will always remain a brick and mortar firm. An online retail firm, e-commerce firm would always remain an online e-commerce firm. Now those boundaries are now getting demolished. Primary reason is that if they don't break those boundaries, the survival is an issue. We are seeing a lot of store closures and bankruptcies that are happening for the firms who are not making this change. One of my favorite organizations, Toys R Us, it's my favorite shop to buy toys, not only for my kid but also for myself. So that organization is now facing store closures across the world. So it's a bit sad. But then on the other side, there are a lot of changes that are happening on some of the brick and mortar firms are really making huge investments on the online medium, right? And the digitally native medium is investing in the brick and mortar world. Case in point, Amazon buying Whole Foods and Walmart buying Flipkart.com, or a couple of years back they bought Jet.com. So these traditional sector boundaries, as we know, they no longer exist. It's been broken down fairly fast. The next big disruption that we see on the business side is that the CMOs, the chief CMOs and the chief marketing officers, they're deeply concerned by some of the marketing disruptions that are happening. Now, a customer today is an empowered customer. He's forever looking for a frictionless customer experience across the different channels that he's kind of consuming the product or the service from organizations. He's always on the lookout for a newer technology or a newer way to consume the data. So there exists a lot of pressure on the chief marketing officers into reaching out to the customer in a much better way from a marketing perspective, right? And what happens is, because of these changes, there are newer sources of data, newer interfaces, newer technologies, newer tech infrastructure, right? All of these is putting in a pressure on the IT CIO as well, right? How do I ensure that my tech backend infrastructure is up to speed in terms of the requirements of not only the CMOs, but also the business heads, and also from the customer's perspective, which results in a lot of requirements from a skills perspective, right? Newer technology, knowledge from an employee's perspective. And what we are seeing is that digital skills are becoming a rare and precious commodity, right? Newer type of skills are popping up. Their shelf life is probably about close to 1 year, and then another skill comes in, right? Nowadays, skills like data science, analytics are rare, right? It's very difficult to get. Organizations are struggling to get good data scientists, good analytics personnel, right? So it has become a big challenge for organizations worldwide, irrespective of the sector, irrespective of the geography. This is now a reality. Now, this sets the context in terms of, okay, what are the challenges and what are the challenges that we face on the technologies. We understood now what is digital and what are the disruptions that are happening on the business side. Now, coming back to the report. Just to give you a brief overview in terms of, Anand did mention it, the scope of the report that we did. It was a global report. The first time that we did, as Anand mentioned, was in 2012. Now this is sort of a continuation of that report in 2018. What we tried to do was to gauge the progress of the respondents, whatever responses that we got in 2012 and 2018. So the scope is close to about 757 organizations and 1,300 plus respondents across designation levels, across different sectors, right? And India was a focus area this time. We interviewed about close to 57, 58 organizations in India, and that too across sectors. So in 2012, when we first did this survey, we felt that when we talk about digital strategy and digital transformation, there are two key aspects of it. Digital capabilities and leadership capabilities. Digital capabilities are using technologies to better serve the customers, the internal processes to enable those technologies to reach out to your customers, and business models to create a kind of a higher level abstraction for it. So the digital capabilities answers the what part of it, in terms of what are you changing. So basically using digital technology to transform the customer experience, operational process, and business models. Now, what about the how part of it? The how part of it is answered by the leadership capabilities. How are firms using digital capabilities to change or do the transformation? There are 4 key aspects to it: vision, governance, engagement with the employees, and fourthly, the IT and the business relationship. So these are the 4 key components without which it's very difficult to kind of visualize in terms of or kind of go through the entire transformation program. Now with that context, so this is, and we have kind of continued that in 2018 as well. So these are the 2 pillars on which we rate the employees. So and we did some slight modifications to our mastery framework that was defined in 2018. What we did was we added a talent and organization pillar because we thought that it is very important from a digital capabilities perspective. And we also modified some things on the business model innovation. We included things like radical cost value, which is like a step change in cost from an IT cost perspective while serving the new customers. And platform value is more in terms of using platform as a scale effect to reach to new customers. Right? On the leadership capabilities, we included things like workforce enablement and modified or tweaked some of the other parameters on vision and purpose, governance, among other things. So with these 2 frameworks in mind, so as any consultant would do, put that in a 2x2 matrix and form these 4 groups: beginners, conservatives, fashionistas, and digital masters on the digital capabilities on one axis and leadership capabilities on another axis. So the beginners is someone who is very low in digital capabilities and very low in leadership capabilities, and digital masters are the ones who are very high in digital capabilities and very high in leadership capabilities. So let's quickly understand what these 4 groups mean. A beginner is someone with almost a beginner by accident, right? That absolutely zero digital strategy. Management attitude is negative. There is coordination happens in silos. The governance is extremely weak. And most often the conclusion is that they are often a beginner by accident. Do you agree to this, Dilbert Joe? So the next one is fashionista. Fashionistas are the ones who leap onto the new technology as and when it gets released, right? What happens is, think of it as the startups of the world. For example, I'm a sort of a person, whenever a new technology comes on board, I would be the first ones to buy it. I would be the first one to buy it, irrespective of whether the product will actually survive or not. So I'm, on a personal note, I'm probably the only person, maybe in India, who has a Google Glass, right? I invested in Google Glass. So, but there is no vision to it in terms of, okay, what is the use case for it, right? You invest in technologies, in new technology, but you do not know how to do the transformation with it, okay? What the transformation vision is missing for the fashionistas. What happens is, especially on fashionistas, is that there may be a lot of revenue that they may be generating, but the problem is on the profitability side, right? They're extremely costly while doing that implementation part of it, right? And the conclusion is that they're attracted to sexy digital applications. Next is conservatives. What is self-explanatory? Extremely good on the transformation vision part, on the leadership capabilities part, but are extremely cautious when it comes to onboarding new digital technologies or digital capabilities, okay? Now, digital strategy is underdeveloped, but the governance is very strong. The coordination is very strong. So very, very conservative when it comes to implementing or taking on board new digital technology capabilities, right? And finally, digital masters. They are the best of the lot. They have the best of the best digital features, which are actually generating revenue, not only generating revenue, but are also driving profitability. Strong digital strategy, strong culture, very positive management attitude, coordination is extremely strong, governance is strong. They understand how to drive value with the digital. And another advantage is, I couldn't find a Scott Adams joke for digital masters, which means they're doing it well. Right? So on the next few sections of the presentation, what I will do is, I will say I will be talking about few things on which the firms, the organizations are not doing well. Some of the key insights or observations that we have noticed. And then move on to some of the aspects of what we can learn from digital masters, right? Some of the insights, some of the things that they're doing it well. And finally, I would kind of close in with a case study on Walmart, especially talking about their digital transformation journey. So this is one of the main outputs of our study. What we saw was only a minority of organizations have the digital and leadership capabilities which are required. On the digital capabilities, the number is more or less the same when we compare to the 2012 output, but the number falls significantly when we compare to when we look at the leadership capabilities. There is a key reason behind it. In 2012, when we surveyed the organizations, most of the CIOs or the senior management felt that they have the required vision or the governance to execute the digital strategy plans. But 6 years have passed, a lot of challenges which are there, and these challenges are affecting the way the organizations are actually working. So we will be going in detail in terms of what are the prime reasons behind this huge drop on the leadership capabilities. Same is getting reflected on India as well. Only 36% say that they have the required leadership capabilities. Now, on the digital capability side, there are two key things, customer experience and operations. See, customer experience is something which would be in terms of using analytics, social media, etc., to reach out to your customers, right? And connected products, etc. So, so 43% of the organizations today use mobile channels to reach out to your customer, right? This number was close to about 23% in 2012, which means organizations are actually investing a lot on enhancing the customer experience part of it, the front-facing, client-facing part of it. But they are facing struggle on another key aspect, which is the operation side of it. On the customer experience, what some of the organizations have mentioned that close to about 40% are improving their knowledge of markets and customers through devices embedded in the products. And this number was very low in 2012, around close to 17%. And when it comes to operations, there are few things when you talk about operations. Things like real-time monitoring, real-time internal processes, and ensuring that whatever technologies that we are using on the customer experience is getting reflected from an operations perspective. That's where the challenge is. The number has fallen down significantly from 50% in 2012 to about 36% in 2018. And the same thing is getting reflected in the India numbers as well. Now, on the leadership capabilities, there are 4 key components, as I mentioned: IT and business relationship, engagement, governance, and vision, right? For example, in 2012, 65% of the organizations felt that the CIO of the organizations and senior business executives have a shared understanding of IT in their organization, right? 65% said that they have a shared understanding. That number is now fallen down to 37%. There are few observations, a few insights from that particular change in this number from 2012 to 2018, which means that now the organizations, the CIO organizations and business organizations are not working in tandem for a shared IT goals, right? In 2012, about 59% organizations felt that CIO and senior business executives have a common understanding when it comes to IT business priorities. That number has fallen down to less than 35% in 2018, right? And you must have seen in many organizations, they have created, the business has actually gone ahead and created something like a shadow IT, right? When you call a shadow IT, which means that, okay, it's not aligned to the larger CIO organizations, right? The shadow IT takes its own decisions when it comes to IT, and it's not aligned to the CIO organization. Now, what happens is if you have a shadow IT, right? It's not aligned to the larger CIO goals with respect to a centralized IT, and that results in a lot of issues with respect to fragmentation of IT. Engagement is a huge issue. Engagement again has fallen down from 45% to 34%. Primary reason is employees, organizations are feeling that organizations are not taking, when you talk about engagement, engagement is with employees, engagement is with vendor partners, engagement is with any other people who are included in the ecosystem. That engagement number has reduced significantly, which means that employees are not being taken together in the transformation journey. Vision, again, vision is also an issue. If you do not have a clear vision, governance would always be a challenge. Okay? That's one key observation that we have seen in the report. Another key observation from this report is that employees are not being invited on the digital transformation journey. When we talk about employees, there are possibilities that to engage employees on any transformation journey, right? See, one key observation here was that only 1 in 4 organizations, about 25%, said that they use data and analytics to understand their employee preferences for career development and training, etc. It's very strange because when we talk about data and analytics, customers have cracked it on the customer-facing side. Organizations have cracked it on the customer-facing side. They use excellent data and analytics to understand the customer preferences and behavior. But what about using that same data and analytics to understand the employee preferences for training and reskilling? That number is extremely low, right? That has an impact on few things, like in terms of, okay, your employee preferences with respect to skilling, reskilling, talent, etc. are not being adequately captured, and you end up being in a situation where you have to hire and look out for skills outside the organization. 44% said upskilling is a top priority, which means about close to 66% said upskilling is not a top priority, which is very strange in today's changing environment, right? Only 39% said they actively recruit and hire new talent with strong digital skills, right? And only 38% said they have a formal program for digital reskilling employees, training and mentoring, right? Nowadays, this has become a focus area, having a formal program, as Anant mentioned that we have set up recently for CAPGEMINI. And one more success story that I want to talk about is Nestle. Nestle recently did an employee reskilling program on digital. Right? Close to about 10,000 employees were skilled on digital skills, and the idea was to use those digital skills which are relevant for Nestle and then take it ahead and then skilling other employees. So this becomes the kind of the train the trainers kind of model. Nestle is a huge success story on the employee reskilling program part of it. Second is organization, they are not paying enough attention to one more key ingredient, which is the digital culture. And digital culture is always a kind of a top-down. If the senior management have the right digital culture defined in the vision, right, and that is actually gets percolated downwards to the employees. Only 38% said they actively promote data-driven decision making. Only 34% said they encourage rapid and independent decision making, right? Collaboration, right? Employees can collaborate digitally with others, only 38%. And 35% said they share their knowledge through collaborative platforms like Slack, Jira, and Skype. So let's look at these collaborative platforms, right? I'm sure that almost all the organizations have these platforms, either a Slack or a Jira or a Skype, It's the platforms are there. Are they effectively used within the organizations, right? Business analysts are required to use Jira, right, or any other collaboration platforms. But what if that integration of Jira with other units, not only from an IT perspective, but also on the business perspective is not well established? Then what is the use of having this platform? So you have to use the platforms effectively. One is to ensure that there is no lacuna when it comes to implementing any digital program. Second is, in terms of at least the productivity is increased from that perspective. 33% said that digital technologies have improved communication between senior executives and employees, which means about close to 67% said the top-down communication is not working using digital technologies, which is an extremely scary number to look at. So what can we learn from digital masters to sustain digital transformation? So I'll go through a few points in terms of some of the digital masters who are doing it well, right, who are extremely passionate about these things. The first thing that has worked really well for them is that they know their customers more intimately, right? They use analytics to better segment the customers. They regularly conduct market studies or customer research to update what the customer needs. They use digital technologies to better integrate different channels that are working together, right? The numbers are pretty high, 68%, 63%, 59%, etc. Now, how many of you are fans of Lego here? Most everyone, I guess. I love Lego because it kind of, not only for myself, but like everyone in my family likes Lego because it kind of uses small kind of bottom-up approach from a creativity perspective, right? I would show you a small video about Lego and how they are doing, how they're actually using this concept of knowing the customers intimately and to their benefit.
Have you ever said, I think that Lego should make? Well, now's your chance to show us. Lego Ideas is where we open the gates, lift the veil, and invite you to decide what you would make if you were us. It's where you can show off your best ideas and creativity, whether it's a new product design or an entry to a contest, where you could stand out from the crowd with your amazing creation. But you don't actually have to enter or submit anything. You can look through other people's submissions and be amazed at how creative Lego fans are. And if you like something, you can show your support. Easy. So come on, give us your best idea and let your fellow Lego fans and our review board decide whether to greenlight your idea and make you a star. Ideas. Anyone can have them, but will yours become a reality?
So, brief background about this Lego Ideas, right? Maybe about 10 years back, the way the Lego model sets were working was that there was an internal design team who used to work on this. Okay, obviously, when you have a kind of a closed set of individuals working on design sets, there is stagnation of ideas, right? And they were really struggling in bringing out new models into the market. That's when they started off this concept of Lego Ideas. The idea is, okay, there is a website on which anyone using the existing Lego bricks can create some models and upload it onto the website, right? Now, and then there is also a community rating system. Let's say if around 10,000 votes are given for that particular model, then that model goes into production, right? Now see what has happened here. Legos has entirely removed the product innovation process, right? It's a costly product innovation process. During that, there is product ideation, there is market research study, then the viability study, and all those kind of things. That part is entirely now outsourced to the customers. Now, talking about this, let's say about the 10,000 votes, right? 10,000 votes means every vote is like a intent to purchase, right? Which means that already if a model gets about 10,000 votes, which means Legos already sees that, okay, there is a market for this product. Right? That has tremendously helped in Legos bringing out new models. So all the, if you go to any Lego store, all the architecture models, right? And there is one Big Bang Theory models, everything, all these ideas have come from Lego Ideas. Second most important thing, what the digital masters do perfectly is they align customer experience and internal operations perfectly. That we have seen in the earlier slides. There's one of the challenge is aligning the customer experience and internal operations, right? 73% have the of the digital masters. So their digital transformation visions actually incorporate both customer experience and internal operation, right? Digital technology also helps them in kind of not only from the perspective of customer experience, but on also aligning that to the internal operations, right? Enhancing the internal operations in such a way that the organizations get maximum benefit out of it. Let's look at one example of how Walmart has done it.
140 million shoppers walk through our doors each week with 140 million different reasons to shop. Today, we unveil a new way to communicate with shoppers that anticipates their needs, reacts in real time to what's happening in their world, and delivers your message to the right person at exactly the right moment. Introducing the Walmart Smart Network. Welcome screens greet her the moment she walks in the door and get her shopping trip started. They know what time it is, what the weather will be this weekend, what is relevant to her, like quickly telling her what's on rollback in her Iowa City store, or reminding her to pick up more coat because it's going to be 80 degrees on Saturday. And that's just the beginning. Smart Network category screens engage her with timely solutions and suggestions that are programmed in real time. Like, it's 5 o'clock and take and bake pizza would be a simple dinner solution for her family tonight. And in electronics, a wall of HD TV screens gives her the latest in entertainment solutions, helping her choose the right TV or select from the latest video games, cell phones, or DVD releases. End cap screens throughout the store offer her useful, interactive information to help her make a purchase right now, right at the moment of decision. Now, with the most technically sophisticated network in retail history, the Walmart Smart Network has the ability to communicate to shoppers with more relevance and power than ever before. How smart is that?
One more, there is a video for it, but it's a pretty long one. I think when you have the time, if you can go through it, is Alibaba's new retail model, right? It's an extremely useful in terms of what they did was they integrated the mom and pop shops, the malls, and the whole set of their own online platform, because Alibaba is known for the online platform, and kind of integrated everything. And not only that, even on the automobile side as well, they integrated everything into a new concept called new retail model, right? And that's a perfect example of how merging the enhancing the customer experience part of it, and also working at improving your internal operations. The third point is digital masters always stay ahead of their competitors when it comes to innovations, right? They constantly identify innovations in their value chain. They actively collaborate with a lot of partners. Partners can be in terms of startups, incubators, to co-develop solutions, and sometimes even competitors as well, to co-develop solutions, close to about 66%. And the third most important point is when they test an idea, from the testing of the idea to the actual production and execution of that particular idea, it's the actual time is reducing day by day for them. Yeah. So let's look at, again, sorry about some videos, but that I wanted to kind of showcase in terms of some of the examples of some of the organizations that are doing it perfectly. IKEA, who today is launching its first store in India, and apparently is already there was a family day on Saturday or something like that, and they clocked some record numbers on small items and on food items and all. So let's look at IKEA and innovations.
I'm Pam Andrews. I'm a DC manager for IKEA North America.
My name's Greg Miller. I've worked with IKEA for 18 years now in September.
The fact that we own the supply chain from production right the way through is what makes it significant. We really want our team leaders to manage the business. And you can't manage a business at your desk, running it from your laptop there. So we put the laptops on bikes, so they're working real time with the co-workers out on the floor.
We have a palletless decking solution in our conventional racking that essentially takes the wood pallet out of the picture. Also, our fully automated silo is definitely a big piece of technology that we use and that is going to be put in the distribution centers as we build them.
Silo is a chosen piece of, you can really just say it's a huge computer. It's completely automated. It's the most productive part of our business. It's density storage for high frequency product that's sold. It adds value because of how efficient it is. And also there's so much less handling involved.
I think that you have to have new ideas all the time to keep the business and the people developing. So it's very, very important to change. I think that you're probably most successful if you're changing. And I think IKEA is really, really good at that.
So there are loads of examples on how organizations are using innovations, especially on the supply chain side, on the customer experience side and all, and perfectly kind of merging them to derive good value add to the customers. And it's not necessarily that these innovations come internally. It's always sometimes some of these ideas come externally. It can be via it can be from your customers, like what Legos did, or it can be from, let's say, ecosystem partners like startups or startup vendors, or even your vendor partners on technology. Right? One more thing that the digital master do it very well is they are able to tie the vision, and one is articulating the vision properly and tying that vision to the strategy and governance, right? If the vision is not well articulated, and if the vision is not propagated down to the lowest level of employees, then there is an issue with respect to strategy and governance. And then also, it's not like once you set the vision, it's done, right? They always adjust the role descriptions and KPIs so that it is aligned with their changing digital transformation objectives. Close to 61% of them do that. Next point is organizations are able to, the digital masters, they effectively empower employees and bring employees along when it comes to the digital transformation journey. They realize that there are two things, customer centricity and employee engagement and employee involvement, right? Both these factors are important for them, right? In some of the successful digital masters, they take along, the employees take ownership in the operational ideas and implementation, right? They do not have to deal with bureaucracy when it comes to submitting ideas or submitting new sets of implementable ideas. One example that I want to show on this is when we did this study, we also did this, we kind of, if you look at the report as well, it's cuts across the industries. And what we have also done is some of the industries who do it very well. For example, consumer products industries is considered as a kind of a digital master. And insurance is somewhat a kind of a beginner, right? But there are certain good insurance ideas, right? Which insurance companies who are bringing in new ideas when it comes to innovations and kind of bringing in the employees in their entire transformation journey. On the digital skills part of it, just to pause before I show the video of Argo, we are doing a workshop tomorrow. CAPGEMINI is conducting a workshop. Manik and his team would be conducting that, where we will be deep diving on the digital skills part of it and what it means for business analysts like you, and how do you keep abreast of new technologies, new type of skill sets, and what organizations are looking at, and what is the roadmap for you. So please do tune into that. I can safely assure you that it would be very exciting and interesting for you.
Technology is powerful. It has the opportunity to change millions and millions of people's lives. What we're doing here is bring some really unique people and perspectives and processes to the equation so that we can operate at tech speed, affecting an industry that is tremendously important and valuable, but needs to change. We're in a world that is changing constantly and changing more rapidly. We recognize that business in this industry has been done the same way for a long time, so we can't just overnight radically change that. We have to build bridges between how things are done today and how things will be done in the future. Argo Digital brings the startup culture to the insurance world. There's a new way to transfer risk in the 21st century. We try to organize our teams into very small squads composed of product owners, engineers, designers, marketers, whatever is needed to get that job done. Our process is based on hypotheses driven by observations of the real world. These observations help small businesses stay in business, which is our primary mission. We build with purpose. Everyone understands the purpose that's on the team. We know our customer. We know what problem we're solving for them. There's no indirection. So Argo Risk Tech is using a combination of new Internet of Things, IoT types of devices to be able to get additional data to provide insights to businesses. So give you an example. Very large percentage of slips and falls happen in grocery stores. We have a solution whereby we can put sensors inside the grocery stores to help see where there are problems within the grocery store and ensure that the employees are basically diligent about their rounds and cleaning things up and doing that. Protector is a digital platform that connects customers and brokers to us. It lets customers get a quote and sign up for insurance in just 5 minutes, including right on a mobile app. It lets brokers maintain a close connection with these customers. In Brazil, it's been used to facilitate insurance for things like high-end bikes, and it's a proven success. It'll soon be launching focus on professional liability insurance. We use data, we always have used data to try to understand and assess risk, understand businesses, understand people. Well, this new world where data is being created at a massive rate provides new opportunities. So we're using machine learning, artificial intelligence to basically better understand that. At Argo, we're able to operate at the speed that we need to operate at to make a huge impact on this industry.
So Argo is a good example wherein if you're talking about a laggard like an insurance industry, but what they are bringing in is new sets of ideas when it comes to insurance, right? Insurance industry has a lot of paper-based process, long claims process, etc. So what Argo has done is kind of changed that paradigm in terms of, okay, they bring in terms of shorter claims processing times, maybe instantaneous claim processing times using mobiles and technology, and all of these ideas have come internally, right? They have developed it internally with the help of the external partners. Digital masters also, they proactively narrow the digital talent gap. One key important thing is organizations to know what skills are important, not only now, but also in the next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, right? If they're able to effectively predict in terms of what skills are required, then it's done in terms of, okay, you do not have to worry about the skill gap or in terms of the issues associated with talent unavailability, etc. So 69% of them, they have a formal program from a skilling perspective. They know which skills that are required and all those kind of things. And they also have the necessary infrastructure internally to enable their employees to learn or to upskill or cross-skill or to learn new things. One final point is digital masters. They're able to break silos between business and technologies. I mentioned that in the leadership capability slide, that one of the key problem areas that many organizations have faced is that the relationship between the IT and business is not well established, right? But in the case of digital masters, the IT unit's performance actually meets the needs of the company. They are well integrated. The CIO's vision, IT vision, aligns with the business leader's IT vision, right? So let's look at one case study before I close this keynote. Walmart, right? Everybody knows about it. Everybody has heard about it. They are a giant when it comes to retailing. In 2011, Walmart was getting beaten black and blue by Amazon when it comes to retail, when it comes to online retail, right? At that time, Walmart was entirely concentrated on their brick and mortar presence, right? But in 2011, they did have an e-commerce site, but it was a very basic site. That's when they kind of reorganized themselves, set up a team with a clear vision and a clear transformation goals in terms of what they need to achieve. So which actually has shown in the results. Their online sales revenue has grown tremendously, close to about 500% growth when it comes to e-commerce sales in those 7 years. 40% growth in 27 online sales, faster than Amazon's 26%. Of course, there is a base effect which is there. Amazon is much higher and Walmart is much lower when it comes to online sales, but still there is a significant growth. And then in the last 7 years, Walmart has been consistently outperforming when it comes to percentage growth in comparison to Amazon. 139% growth in online unique visitors, which is also a very significant number. So what are the things that they have done? So they focused on these 4 aspects. First thing, reaching customers faster with online fulfillment center. Walmart realized that with their stores, right, with a combination of the stores, warehouses, Sam's Club warehouses and all, they already have the fulfillment centers, right? The biggest challenge that any online retailer faces is with respect to fulfillment centers. Now they then had a perfect integration between their online site with their fulfillment centers, which resulted in increasing sales on the online e-commerce site with a faster turnaround with respect to delivery as well. So the revenue is now close to about 20 billion, which is close to about 4% of the total revenue. It's not significant, which is significantly high, but in 2011 it was less than it was around 1% or less than 1%. Second thing that Walmart did was used mobile and web effectively. Today more than 50% of Walmart users come from mobile, right? Walmart recently partnered with Google for conversational commerce. Like for example, let's say on a Google Assistant or a Google Home, you can order the list from Walmart and it gets added to Google Express. Of course, it's US only as of now. And then you can do a checkout using Google Pay. So this integration is now working well and very well. On the social side, they've invested a lot in improving the social branding and also taking insights with respect to understanding the customers. And finally, better forecast demand planning and better plan inventory, right? Now Walmart, because so many stores are there across the Americas, and there is loads of data which is there. It's been residing for many years. Recently they have realized the importance of the data that they have, right? And they are now using that data effectively to use and by using analytics to better predict demand patterns, right? In terms of what items should be there on the store or what items should be there on the online platforms. It currently processes about 40 petabytes of data every day. They recently had a cloud partnership with Microsoft. So you can see, so there is a Walmart partnered with Microsoft here and a Google here, right? To fight with Amazon. There's a saying in Hindi, right? Dushman ka dushman dost hota hai. So all the dushmans have kind of gotten together to fight the big giant Amazon. So how did Walmart stay ahead of the game in digital innovations? A digital savvy leadership. The leadership was extremely clear in terms of articulating the vision and also clearly laid down the governance plan, right? They brought in leaders from outside because Walmart traditionally was a kind of a more internal facing organization. Most of the top leaders were from the family itself, but that changed, especially on the digital side of the business. They adopted new technologies, non-traditional approaches to build their digital skills. They built a culture of innovation by way of hackathons and all to develop some ideas and creating new ideas to reach out to the customers. And finally, most importantly, what they did was they did some strategic acquisitions to bolster digital capabilities. You can see some of the acquisitions that Walmart has done in the last few years, starting with Jet the big one was the Jet.com, and then the biggest one now is the Flipkart.com. I think one interesting insight that comes from Jet.com acquisition. You know, a typical, who is a typical Walmart customer, right? Probably the middle class who knows, who wants the grocery items or maybe kind of a slightly cheaper items, right? They are the customers. They are the customer base for Walmart, right? But Walmart did not have access, like a rich and affluent class probably will not go to a Walmart for buying goods. That changed with the acquisition of Jet. They introduced a new customer category in terms of into their line of business. Jet.com was catering to the rich and affluent class, right? Now a new customer base is now added to them. So this is, which means that it's an increasing level of customer base that they have. And with the data getting integrated, with the 40 petabytes of data, whatever they have from Jet.com and Walmart.com, they are now able to effectively reach out to both the classes, both the rich and affluent class as well as probably the middle class. And they're also expanding internationally to fight Amazon. Flipkart.com, let's see how that transition goes, whether they would leave it alone or they would kind of do a better integration when it comes to Walmart and Flipkart from a supply chain perspective and all. Now, we're seeing a lot of changes, as I said, there's a lot of changes that are happening from a digital perspective, right? Given all these changes, a digital strategy is now being treated as the alpha and omega for any transformation strategy, right? The transformation strategy is a master of its own, right? But you cannot have, nowadays, you cannot have a transformation strategy without a digital being a key component of it, right? And so if you talk about a transformation strategy, digital has to be a key component to it. So while transformation is not just digital, transformation cannot do without digital. With that, I close my keynote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lalit. Do we have any questions from the audience?
Anand? Yeah.
Hi, Lalit. You threw a lot of numbers. Thank you for that. So regarding numbers, first of all, it's my perception that you've mentioned about operations, that the clients, the typical customers who you have surveyed, their experience in operations has dropped down from 50% to 36% is what you said.
Yes.
So I personally feel it's because back in 2012, they were not aware that all these technologies existed, IIoT and all these jazzy terminologies and the implementations have come in the last 6 years. That is why that number has fallen. It's not because of operations have become inefficient.
Absolutely. You are totally right that in 2012, when you talk about digital or digital transformation, was still at a very nascent stage, right? Lot of organizations were experimenting, right? They thought that, okay, let's treat it as any transformation strategy, right? We can't do IoT or anything like, we can't do the transformation strategy on its own. But it took them 6 years to understand it's not that easy, right? They were very optimistic in 2012, but it's not pessimistic now, it's the reality now. The 2018 figures reflect the reality. 2012 figures, what we see, what we believe is that it reflects the optimism of the organizations during that time.
Now talking about Walmart,
Yes.
the case study that we've discussed, I seriously believe that, it is very, in a way, not exactly giving a correct representation of the figures.
Okay.
You talk about 500% growth in e-commerce from 2011 to 17.
Of course, the base effect is there. Yeah.
There's a huge effect of
Yes,
that,
yes.
let us be frank. And saying that Walmart is ahead of the game in the digital,
No, I'm not saying that Walmart is ahead of the game. What I'm saying is Walmart has now made digital as one of their key core strategies, right? Which they know that, okay, they have to compete with Amazon. They have to compete with Amazon or maybe in any other market or maybe newer place which are there. Now, with having an only a brick and mortar strategy will not work for them.
Absolutely.
So that's the reason why they're having a core digital strategy, right? And it's not that the numbers are, for example, the total revenue from an online sales is only 20, which is around 4% of the total revenue of Amazon, Walmart, which is extremely low. But when you talk about it, Walmart's total revenue numbers is around close to about 500 billion or something like that, right? Growing from less than a billion to 4 billion, right, in the last few years. In fact, that number has jumped to 4 billions effectively in the last 2 or 3 years, right? Primarily because of all these acquisitions and all. Yes, yeah. all the M&As and all. Yeah. And one of the reason why I included this case study is that it's not necessary that you need to be a digital leader. You need to be a leader in terms of, okay, it has to reflect when it comes to revenue or profitability and all. If you're doing it right, it kind of has a platform or a scale effect, right? Maybe with a Flipkart.com, you see that number from 20 billion growing up to, let's say, 40 or 50 billion, and that base effect now changes tremendously. So that is the idea behind using this Walmart, because they had realized that they have to be in this game to compete with the Amazons of the world.
Fair enough, thank you.
I'm afraid we are running out of time, so just one last question, please.
I'll push my luck and see if I can ask the second question as well. I'm referring to the governance and the vision and purpose that is shown in the flyer, yeah, where it has actually dropped down as compared to 2012 to 2018, and that's a little bit surprising considering that there are more digital adoptions happening.
Correct.
Can you explain the reason why it has happened? That's question one.
Correct.
And just to push in my question two is, as you said that Walmart actually replaced its leaders and brought in new people.
Correct.
Is that the phenomena wherein we have leaders who were in the pre-digital era and they are very uncomfortable to adapt to the digital era, and that's why you see a slow pace of adoption? And has the time come for enterprises to move away their non-digital leaders and bring in fresh talent?
Okay. On the first point, on the vision and governance, the numbers falling, the key reason is, again, going back, is, see, any vision and governance is a perception, right? Because there was a perception issue in terms of, okay, we have a clear vision when it comes to digital transformation. That number, that whatever they have mentioned in 2012, and they said that, and governance is not a one-time activity. Governance is a year-long activity which has to be tracked in terms of what the type of governance mechanisms that you are putting in place and the kind of KPIs that you are putting in place. Are they being revised every year or not? What organizations are now feeling that after 6 years of the study of various changes that are happening on the technology front, they are failing on the governance part of it, which means that they're not changing their KPIs effectively, they're not aligned, the governance is not being aligned, the vision is not getting aligned to whatever it's being earlier envisaged, right? Or to the ever-changing demands of the customers, or whatever the competitors are doing, right? So that's so again, going back to my earlier point, 2012 was more of a perception, 2018 is the actual reality that we see. And that's the change that we are seeing. On the second question, sorry, the bringing in new leadership, right? We are seeing that. Okay, many new organizations are bringing in leaders from the external market. Not only leaders, but also they are creating new roles. Nowadays, if you go to any organization, a chief digital officer is taken. That's a role which is given a lot of importance nowadays, right? Now, a chief digital officer, what is the role of the chief digital officer, right? He has to effectively work with the CIOs, the CTOs, and the CMOs and all, right? For developing the digital strategy. Now, if the organizations have that person within their pool of available resources, probably they go ahead and they use them. Otherwise, most often than not, what they do is they look externally, right? Primarily because they want to bring in a kind of an outside-in perspective, right? That outside-in perspective is very important when it comes to digital transformation. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing in that brilliant content and also all those interesting